welcome to any replay viewers that are tuning in after this has gone live. Hi, how are you? I wanted to just do a quick Periscope and talk about framing and how I handle framing in my studio, because I know that there's a lot of questions on that. Let me just really quickly do a little introduction before we get started, and then we'll dive right into framing. Let me get this kind of set up a little bit better. I feel like it's tilting a little bit, but yeah. Hi, Anna. So that's going to be about the best I think we're going to get it. There we go. Okay, quick little introduction. My name is Gretchen Adams. I am a portrait photographer here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I started my business in 1999. Okay, good. Is that you? Hi, Bernadette. Started my business in 1999, and I specialize in families and children. And I run a boutique business model, meaning low volume, high level customer service. Okay, and I also teach within the photography industry to other photographers who are also trying to master the art of running a boutique business model. Okay, all right. So we have a private Facebook group for the students that are in my online courses, which, if you're interested, you can find at theboutiqueportraitstudio.com. But anyways, in our group, we're talking a lot about framing lately. So I wanted to just kind of explain how I do framing, because I know it can be really confusing and kind of a daunting task to take on for a small studio. And I've done it a lot of different ways over the years. So I just want to kind of run through the different options and explain how I do it now and how to set up a partnership with a local framer if that's something that you'd like to do. Really quick, also, if you have other photographers that follow you that you think may want to hear about framing, please go ahead and share this. You can just tap that little guy down there and, you know, swipe it and share so that your followers can hear this as well. Okay? All right, so let's talk about the different ways that you can handle framing. Really quick, do any of you frame your portraits right now? Are you working with a framer? Do you have a system set up for framing at all? Or is this something that you really want to learn about? Not yet. Okay. There's lots of different options for how you can handle framing, but I really feel like it's important to do because not yet, but want to start. Okay, perfect. I feel like it's really important to do because your work needs to be framed somehow. And if you're not offering it, your clients are going to just take it to a frame shop and someone else is going to profit off of your work. So you might as well offer that service to your clients. Plus, if you're trying to run a full service studio, it's really not a full service unless your art is ready to hang on the walls. So it's good for business, and it helps bring in some more income. Okay. So I've been doing this for about 16 years, and I've tried different methods for framing. I've done the whole, order frames online from places like Excel and places like that will send you like a frame kit, and you can put the prints in yourself and handle all the framing yourself. I'm not good at that. I'm a little too OCD for that. I do not like cleaning glass and making sure that everything's perfect and, putting it all together. Not my thing. So I just don't enjoy that at all. I prefer to have somebody else take care of it for me. I've been trying to decide where to order quality frames. Okay. So what I do now is I work with the local framer. And I developed this relationship about 10 years ago. Yeah, it must have been about 10 years ago because I remember I was pregnant with my son. He just turned 10. So yeah, it's been 10 years. The system I have worked out with him is that he gives me 40% off of his pricing, and he supplies me with all the frame corners and everything that I need. So I help the client here figure out what they want, and then I bring it to the frame shop. He, gets it all put together, and then I bring it back to the client. And because of that 40% cushion, I can then mark it back up to retail and profit from it, okay? So let me explain a little bit about how I set that all up. So a lot of you who are in my courses know that I don't sell my work framed. So when a client's order is finished, they come over to pick it up. I'll usually have all of their loose prints, like things that we weren't planning to frame and smaller things, all just kind of sitting on my table here, displayed out for them. And whatever their big items are, their big wall portraits, I usually would have on an easel sitting somewhere in the studio, just kind of depending on the light at the time of day, because I want the light to, you know, hit it nicely. And I have French doors here, so the clients will walk up and I'll open the, you know, I'll see them coming, so I'll kind of greet them outside. And, you know, as they come in, I go, ta-da, there's your portrait, what do you think? And they see it sitting on the easel in nice light, and, you know, they get all excited. And before they come over, I go through my frame corners that my framer has given me, which these are frame corners if you're not familiar with it. It's just, you know, a joined corner of a frame. It's got the information about who the manufacturer is and what number it is and all that on the back. It always has Velcro on it, but I don't use the Velcro. I'll explain to you how I store these in a little bit. But anyways, I go through the frame corners. How many corners do you carry? I probably have about 50 here, but I can go down to the frame shop and get more if I need to. I'll explain that as well. So I'll go through the frame corners that I have here, and I'll find ones that I think work well with the piece, and I'll have them laid out on the table. No more than probably 8 options, because you don't want to overwhelm someone. So I'll have ones laid out that I think work well with the piece, and then when they come in, I show them the portrait. I give them a few minutes to, you know, just kind of take it in and get all excited about it. And then I say to them, all right, so I've gone through and I've selected some frame corners that I think will work well with your print. Let's go ahead and hold some up and see if there's anything that you like. And if there is, I can get a quote from the framer and I can get it taken care of for you. If you don't see something that you like, you're welcome to take this wherever you want to get framed. You don't have to have me frame it. So let's kind of take a look and see how it goes. And they say, all right, great. So I just start pulling up corners and I set it, you know, in the canvas. And I ask them to stand back and take a look, and we just discuss it. It usually only takes about 5 minutes before they find something that they like. Once they find one that they like, what I tell them is, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside, and I will email the framer tonight with the size of your print and the information about the frame, and we'll get a quote from him. Then I'll email or call you to let you know what the quote is. You can either tell me yay or nay. If it's yay, I'll go get it taken care of, and then when it's done, I'll bring it over to you. Sound good? And they say, yeah. So then we just deal with the other stuff. You know, I go through all the little prints with them, go through the rest of their order. All of that they'll take home with them. The stuff that we've picked out frames for will stay here, okay? And then exactly how I described to them, I'm gonna, you know, get the information over to the framer, get a quote from him, then I'm gonna contact the client, relay the quote to them. Quote is, you know, whatever the framer has quoted me, and then I quote the client the retail, unless I'm giving them a deal or whatever. It just kind of depends on the client. If it's a really good client, you know, sometimes I'll just give them the price that the framer gives me. It just kind of depends, because, you know, it's important to take care of your repeat clients and your good clients. So it just kind of depends. You could do whatever makes sense for you. But anyways, I relay the quote back to the client. They say yay. I get it taken care of. When it's all done, I usually bring it over to them. So you don't upcharge the frames by much. It depends. If it's if I'm just doing straight retail, then, you know, I make 40% off of it, which can be hundreds of dollars. Frames are not cheap, especially when you're talking large wall portraits. So yeah, it can amount to quite a bit. And it really depends on the molding they choose. There's some that are more expensive than others. There's some that are, you know, handmade in Italy and they're very pricey. And there's others that are on the more inexpensive scale. So it just kind of depends on what they choose. And that's another reason that I don't sell work framed. I don't quote them, you know, oh, a 30-inch print is blah, blah, blah price, including the frame, because I don't know what they're going to choose. If I were to include the price of the frame in the price of the print, I wouldn't know if, I wouldn't know if they were going to choose something that, you know, was low on the scale or high on the scale. You know, some people would end up paying, you know, some people will get, you know, just reamed on the price, and some people will get a screaming deal. So there's no way to really standardize that unless you really pare down the moldings that you're going to offer. And I don't like to do that because everybody's different. I want to give them options in different price ranges and just decide based on the style that they like, if that makes sense. Okay. Sometimes people ask me, well, what if the client says no? What if you give them the quote and they say, no, that's too much? I will tell you, in 10 years of working with a framer, that has never happened. If it did, if somebody did say, no, that's too much, Gretchen, I don't want to do it, then I would just I would drive the print over to their house and deliver it and let them, take care of it on their own. But that has never happened. I mean, framing is pricey, so it's not like they're going to, go over to a frame shop and get, a much better deal on something that's very comparable, if that makes sense. Okay, so as far as the frame corners go, what I do with my framer is I go over, he's got a big, when you frame prints, do you offer different mats and frame corners to choose from? Good question. If it's a canvas, it's not getting a mat anyways. It's just getting a molding. We do have the option of doing a liner if we want, which a liner is, I don't know what it's made out of, some sort of, I don't know what the inner is made out of, but it's usually wrapped in a linen, and then you can have like a fillet edge put around it. It's a much fancier way to frame, and we can do that, but it's not that, you got silk. Okay, yeah, you could do silk. It's not that popular around here, so it's very rare that nowadays a client asks me for a liner, so we're usually just doing a straight molding. If it's a print that is not a canvas and it's a regular straight print that we're going to mat in glass, I do have matte samples here that we can go through and pick out different colors. So it just kind of depends on what they're looking for. But what I work out with the framer is he supplies me with everything I need. So all the frame corners that I have here, let me back up 1 second. How do I display the frame corners? So they all come with Velcro on them by default, because usually people hang them on like Velcro boards and stuff. I don't really like that look because I try really hard to make my studio look like a living room. And I know you can't see much of it now. I'll do another Periscope where I show the whole studio, but I try to make it look like a living room because when clients are sitting here, I want them to kind of envision what their home looks like and think about like how I've displayed things in here and think, oh, I could do that. Like that set of prints right there by that dresser, those are all from a folio box, so they can see how they can set up a setup similar with prints from their folio boxes, okay? So I don't want a bunch of frame corners hanging on the walls. So what I do is in that piece right there, that dresser thing, you can see all those baskets underneath. Each basket has frame corners in them, and I have them organized by golds, silvers, blacks, and woods, okay? So each basket has a set of corners in them. So like this is my gold basket, for example. And this comes in handy because, first of all, I know where things are right away, so I can, when a client's coming over, I can pull out some golds if I think a gold is going to work with their portrait or work with their home or whatever. I can pull out what I think will work. But also, a lot of times I'm going to clients' houses with this stuff so that we can look at their furniture and their decor and pick something based on that. And if that's the case, I'll go through the baskets and I'll choose the ones that I like and I'll put them all in one basket and I'll go to the client's house with the basket. Okay, so it just makes it much nicer because then I can set it down on their coffee table and we can go through the ones that I've picked out. Now, the ones that I have are simply the ones that when I go to the framer's warehouse, they're the ones that I liked. So I said, hey, make me a corner of this. He charges me $1 for each corner. I go there all the time. So sometimes I'll walk in and I'll see something new and I go, oh my God, I love that one. Can you make me one of those? So I'll add to them and I'll pull ones out as they get discontinued and things like that. So they're always kind of changing, but there are probably about 15 or so that I use all the time. Like they just always seem to work. So those are kind of like my go-tos. I have some clients that are like, oh, I already have that one. I already have that one. I already have that one because we've worked together so many times and we frame so many things. So, but I can always go down there and pick out new ones whenever I want. Like I've got one coming next week yes, custom framing. So like I've got a client coming next week who I don't really like anything that I've got right here for her portrait. So I'm going to go down and pick out some new stuff for her. And I can go down there and just on a whim, like the day a client's coming, I can go down there and just pull a bunch off the wall and say, I'm going to borrow these, and I just lay them all out on his work table and I'll take a picture of my iPhone of the backs that have all the info so that he can keep track of which ones I have, and then I'll take off with them and then I'll come back a few days later and bring them all back to him. So That's the benefit of developing a relationship with a framer, because they're there to help you out in a pinch. If I'm making money, he's making money. So he helps me out when I need things like that. I could just run down there and say, hey, I need to borrow something. I've got a client coming over, and he's really helpful. So that's basically how I handle it. Did you frame the 6 prints behind you, or is that store-bought frames that a client would get them? Okay, let me explain that. Those are store-bought frames. Those are from a place over here called Cheap Pete's or something. But I think they are the exact same frames that Design a Glow has. The reason I have those in a store-bought frame is because I like to tell clients when they're looking at folio boxes, I like to give them an example of how you can easily pick up store-bought frames, because those are 10-inch prints in 11 by 14 mats. So I like to, show them, like, look, if we take, during the IPS, if we take all of the ones that were your favorites that aren't going to, make it as wall portraits or whatever, and we put them in a folio box, we can then simply set up, put them in a folio box, we can simply set up a nice little gallery wall in your house. And that's really easy, because those are just store-bought 11 by 14 frames that you can just pop your matted prints in. So it's really easy. But I also sell custom frames all the time for that setup. My framer will make a frame, like my clients will pick out a frame corner, something about this width. We'll pick out a frame corner, and he'll make like a set of 6 or 8 frames that have flexi points. So it's basically like a store-bought in the sense that you can, push up the tabs and put your print in. So it's a removable frame, if you will. And I'll sell those to the client. So they'll get a frame that has glass, no matting, because they're going to stick their mats from the folio box into the frame. And then it'll have flexi points on the back so they can easily change out the frames all the time. Hi, how are you? So it makes it really easy. So if somebody doesn't want to go the store-bought route, or, the problem with store-bought is you're really, really limited in your options. So I do keep a lot of moldings here that are appropriate sizes for those things, appropriate widths for 11 by 14 mats, so that people do have options to buy a set like that. And it works out really nicely, especially for my clients that come year after year, because a folio box set is perfect, because they can, pull out the matted prints and put up a new set the next year. So it's kind of an ever-changing display, if you will. Okay. So for people that are trying to figure out, how do you establish a relationship with a framer, so the framer gives you pre-made frames? Well, yeah, he makes them. So he'll join the corners, he'll cut the glass, he'll, make a backing for it, and he'll put in the flexi points that, you can bend. In a regular frame that's not meant to have things taken in and out, they don't use the flexi points. They use a thing that goes in there that doesn't flex up, and then they, put the paper on the back and seal it and everything. It's not meant to be taken in or out. But when I tell him I'm specifically having these made so that my client can take their prints in and out, then he puts the flexi points and he doesn't put any paper. And he puts hardware on it, so it's all good to go. What was I going to tell you about? So how do you go about setting up a relationship with a framer? I would start by looking around town for a frame shop and going in and introducing yourself and see if they work with photographers. Some do, some don't. Some may just say, hey, you're welcome to send your clients to me, and I'll take care of them. And, if that's the best you can do, it's the best you can do. But at least then you're giving your clients a referral of where to go. So they're picking up prints that need to be framed, and you could, be a full service by saying, okay, now here, I want you to contact Deanna at so-and-so or whatever. You're sending them on the way to a framer. You're not going to make any money off of it, but at least you're providing a full service. But the best case scenario is that you find a framer that will either give you a commission based on the people that you send to their frame shop, or that they will supply you with the materials, the corners, the mats, things like that, let you design pieces with your client, and then you call the framer and call it in, and they give you a wholesale price. I just established a relationship with the best framer around. So excited. That's awesome. That's awesome. And like I said, when you find someone good, you know, I've been with this framer for 10 years. So it's just really nice to have those working relationships with people that you can turn to when you need something. Do you only offer standard size portraits for framing, or do you offer custom size portraits? Oh, absolutely. So on my price sheet, I keep it really simple. I have the standard sizes like 16 by 20, 20 by 24, 24 by 30, 30 by 40. But I tell clients, look, like I just did one the other day, that they ordered a 16 by 20, but I want it to be a longer crop just based on the proportions of the image. So I printed it as a 14 by 20. You know, I just tell people I'm going by the long edge. The short edge might get adjusted depending on the image if it needs to be, you know, cropped a little differently or whatever. And people go, that's fine. And then it doesn't matter to the framer. They charge you based on inches. So it's not like in his shop he has all these, you know, 30 by 40 pre-made frames sitting around. He's going to make it based on the print that you give him, and they're charging you per inch. What kind of camera do you use to get the Canon 5D or D5, whatever it's called? Wait, framer can also crop if needed. No, I mean, crop what? What do you mean? I mean, you give them the finished print, so it's, you know, when you're giving it to them, it's the size that it's going to be framed. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Ask me again, or, because I want to answer all your questions. My framer cut it for me, to get a better look. Oh, I trimmed it and then just framed it. Yes, okay. It's probably better if you just do it yourself, so then you're not paying someone else to take care of it for you. But sometimes you don't know until you get it back and you go, that would have looked better if it cut off 2 inches off the top, or, you know, whatever. Sometimes you don't know until you get it back. But, you know, clients don't sit here with a tape measure figuring out, like, well, looks a little off. Is that really a 30 by 40, or is that a 28 by 40? Like, no one's going to measure. They want it to look great. So I've never had somebody say to me, no, Gretchen, don't cut any off. If I'm paying for a 30 by 40, I want a 30 by 40. Like, they don't think of it that way. So they want it to look good, just like you want it to look good. Matter of fact, it cost us more to do something a custom size. You know, I'm going through Miller's, so if I'm doing an odd size, I have to pay a $5 trim fee. So it's costing me $5 more to do a custom size. But, you know, it's $5. Any other questions? Does it all make sense? I mean, it's a pretty easy system, I think. Way easier than when I used to put the frames together myself and, you know, have to clean the glass and all that jazz. This is just so much easier because I'm simply, you know, helping them design it, and then I'm taking it to the framer. Do you ever have Miller say your image isn't large enough for a big print? No. I missed how you said you price it. Okay. No, I've never had an issue with the print, with an image, a file not being large enough to print the size that I need. How do I price it? My framer gives me 40% off of his retail price. And so then I have that leeway to figure out how I want to price it based on that. So sometimes, you know, just bump it back up to retail pricing, what somebody would pay if they walked into his shop, and then, you know, that 40% is mine. Or I can give them a discount off of that, just depending on who the client is. Excuse me, what my relationship is with them. You're welcome. Because, you know, there's a lot of clients that I work with over and over and over again. And, you know, this is relationship selling. And, you know, if you don't have repeat business, you don't have a business in this industry. You have to retain your clients. So you need to be someone that they always feel comfortable going to. They're happy to go to. You're helping them out. I walked into Artisans San Francisco Framers recently. Your tips are, oh, good. You know, and another nice thing about framing too is that I've had clients that have come to me other times to have other things framed. Like I just had a client last year who I frame all their portraits, and the husband had, yes, I mount the prints that will get matted, yes. Had a husband who had a copy of a Rolling Stone magazine that Metallica was on the cover, and it was autographed, and it was a gift that was given to him, and he had like a certificate of authenticity and everything, and he wanted me to frame it for him because he knew that I do framing because I frame all their family portraits. So that was a fun one because we picked out a molding that had skulls and crossbones on it, and it was super cool. I should have taken a picture of it before I gave it to him, but it turned out awesome. But anyway, so things like that, you know, now it's like they know that if they have something else that needs to be framed, you know, give me a call because, you know, they trust me to take care of it since, you know, I take care of all their family portraits. Let's see. Did I miss any questions? Is there anything else that, that you're confused on or dying to know? It's pretty simple stuff. I think that it seems daunting to a lot of photographers because I think, oh, I got to get the corners and all that. But, you know, it's easy enough for your framer to cut these things for you. And like I said, my framer charges me $1 for each corner. And I can go down there and pick out ones whenever I want as well, too. And then you can buy pre-made frames from some of the labs. We'll have setups that have like, you know, 3 5x7 openings or whatever. So you can kind of pre-purchase setups to sell to people. But again, then you're getting into the whole, you know, having to put it together yourself thing. And maybe you want to do that, but it's not something that I ever enjoyed. So you just get back to them with the framing price after you get it worked out with your framer. Yeah. He just simply emails me back and says, okay, here's the quote for that client. And then I usually just email the client and say, got the quote. It's, you know, $585. Good to go. And they email back and say, yeah, sounds great. How many trips do you make after the sale of the original print, pick up, drop off, etc.? Okay, so a typical workflow for me is that the client comes over for their IPS. You know, we order everything, whatever. When everything's done, they either come back here or I bring it to their house. And it really depends on the client. Depends on a lot of things. Depends on the client, depends where they live, depends on if I want to see their house. If they've sent me snapshots of their rooms to help during the IPS and I already have a good idea of their decor, but sometimes I want to go to their house because I want to see the furniture before I select a frame. Sometimes a print may come back and I'm a little iffy on the color. You know, like it may look a little dark in my house, but I'm not sure and I want to see it in their house before I decide if it's perfect or not. So sometimes I want to go over there just for that reason. Remember, when you're running a boutique business model, you have the luxury of devoting more time to your clients and devoting a higher level of service because you're not rushing from appointment to appointment. So you can do things like that. You can, you know, do more appointments and go to see them and you know, make it a little bit more of a, you know, high touch point experience for them. So it's just a different business model. Anyway, so they'll come pick up their prints. Wait a second. How many different finishes do you offer for wall portraits? Like frames, model. Okay, I'll get to that in 1 second. Remind me if I don't. Anyway, so they'll come, you know, for their IPS and they'll come back to pick up their prints or I'll go to them. Then I take it to the framer and then either they'll come back here to pick up the finished print, the finished frame, or I'll bring it to them. Again, it just kind of depends. Some clients I have, like I've got a lot of clients who live, I know you're not familiar with my geography here, but I've got clients who live down in the South Bay, like in Silicon Valley. And it could be a good hour or so drive for them to get up here. So for a lot of those clients, we'll meet halfway. So like just last week, I just took my family to a pizza place about a half an hour south of here. And my client came up a half an hour from where she was and just met me at the pizza place so that I can pass things off to her. So, you know, again, it's a case-by-case situation. I try to be as accommodating. Oh, good. I try to be as accommodating as I can for people. Because again, I want to make it really easy for them to work with me. And my target demographic is usually really busy families. So whenever I can meet them halfway or go to their house to bring things to them or whatnot, I'm more than willing to do it. The only time I don't budge is on the consultations, because it's really important to me that clients come here for the consultation, because that's part of setting the stage for our experience, and part of the sales process is them coming in here, seeing my product, seeing my space, seeing my work. So it's really important to me that we, you know, start off with them coming here. But then after that, I'm very accommodating. Okay. What did you ask me? What finishes I offer? I think that's what you had asked. I keep it really simple. I do a standard straight print that's going to get matted and glassed, or I do a canvas. And for canvas, I do a traditional canvas, like a canvas a print bonded to canvas and then mounted to masonite. And I do gallery wraps anymore. I did them for a few years, and I just wasn't a fan, and it didn't really resonate with my clientele. So just the traditional canvases are what I do. And then everything's luster sprayed. Canvas or traditional print, doesn't matter. It's all luster sprayed. Okay, I think that about does it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can email me, Gretchen, at theboutiqueportraitstudio.com. You are very welcome. Just to reiterate again, when you add framing into your services, it can really, really, really help increase your monthly income. These frames aren't cheap. So, if you can make, an extra $300 to $600 off of every order just on the framing, think about how that adds up at the end of the month and then at the end of the year. So, and it's gonna get done. That stuff needs to get framed. So you might as well be profiting from that instead of a framer. Or if it doesn't get done, it means that your work is sitting there unframed, and that's a shame. So it should be up on their walls where their friends will see it and want to call you and have you do their portrait. So it's in your best interest to get it framed and get it on their walls for them. Okay? All right. Well, sorry this Periscope was so late. I didn't mean to do it this late in the day, but I got caught up with clients, and this was the soonest I could sit down and push it out. So have a great night, everyone. Bye.